Welcome to the Betrayal Trauma Recovery Bookshelf, a space for women healing from betrayal to reconnect with their mind, body, and soul, one page at a time. I'm Rachel Strong Smith, a betrayal trauma coach who's walked this path myself. In each episode, we'll explore books that speak to the heart of recovery, books that validate your experience, offer insight, and remind you that you're not alone. This isn't about fixing yourself. It's about coming home to yourself. So, whether you're in the thick of survival or finding your way back to solid ground, pull up a chair. You're in the right place. Hello, welcome to the Betrayal Trauma Recovery Bookshelf. We have a special guest with us, Sarah Morales. Hello, Sarah. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. This is the first time I get to talk about my workbook. So I'm really excited.
I'm so excited. Let me tell you about Sarah Morales. She is a certified professional coach, certified relationship coach, APSAT certified partner coach, and the founder of Sarah Morales Coaching. She is also the creator of the Deconstructing Gaslighting Academy, a groundbreaking educational and training resource that provides programs for every facet of gaslighting experience, with programs for the victims of gaslighting, the perpetrators of gaslighting that are in recovery, first responders, peer facilitators, and helping professionals. Her passion to empower others to transform their lives fuels her work with her clients and pushes her to continue developing new programs on the cutting edge of helping others to grow to know, trust, and love themselves more than they knew was possible. Welcome, Sarah. Thank you so much. Oh, and I am so excited that I get to be the first podcast to feature your workbook.
Thanks. Yeah. Again, I'm excited. I had my very first person buy a workbook this summer because I just released it, and she wanted an autograph, and I was giddy, right? I took a picture. I'm like, this is the first, So all these firsts are really, really fun for me. Took a long time to get here. So
yes. Well, on just a personal note, you have been a very integral part in my own personal recovery. When I found your program, it was groundbreaking for me, and it really guided me through such a difficult time. So when I saw your thank you. Yeah, when I saw your workbook came out, I was like, okay, I gotta get this.
Nice. I love it. I could tell by your questions. I'm like, these are not normal questions. This woman wants to know. She is getting into the meat. It's fun.
Yes. Well, let's dive into these questions. Yeah. What inspired the creation of the Deconstructing Gaslighting and Take Your Power Back workbook? How did your own experiences or the stories of people you've worked with shape what you've created?
Yeah. So, listen, the workbook is probably the 10th iteration of basically a program that I've been playing with, evolving, expanding since, probably 2015. And I've done it in a whole bunch of different types of things from, a weekend retreat. Where can you imagine trying to get all that information in a weekend, drinking out of a fire hose? That was when I was a very young coach and not as nearly experienced, and was just excited to dispense information, right? As I learned and saw the way people were basically assimilating the information, how it helped to learn it, what they needed to help not just get it in their head, but to actually be able to let it sink in and change things for them. I kept evolving it until about maybe 3 years ago. I kind of ended up with the digital course that you would see on my website right now. And I kind of stayed in the place of having it as a digital course for years. One, because a book would be a big undertaking, but two, because my own personal experience as a betrayed partner, through all the trauma that I went through, I knew that reading was really difficult for me. And I would read the same paragraph, sometimes the same line 10 times easily. And then maybe I would be able to go on to the next paragraph, but good luck if I actually even remembered it. So what I found was videos were a lot easier to remember. And then you could go back and watch it. It's not as hard to find your place. There were a lot of reasons that were connected to trauma. for me that kept me in that place. And then eventually it kind of came to this place where I was like, okay, but not everybody that needs this information is in that high of trauma. Was
Mm.
kind of like the next level up, or like people were telling me, yes, but you understand, like the niche that you've been in, people might be in high trauma when they're trying to learn this stuff, but there are a lot of people who aren't like that, who want to go through your stuff, and not all of them want to learn from videos. In fact, if you go outside of the kind of trauma aspect and lens and mind frame, um, I did a little survey and most people were like, I would like it either in an app or a workbook. So I don't want to mess around with an app. And so I really came to this place where when I did my app sets training way back in 2014, I remember Barb Steffens very clearly drilling into my head, meet the client where they're at, meet the client where they're at, meet the client where they're at. And different people learn in different ways, right? So to this day, some people are going to want to learn through video. Some people are going to want to listen to like podcast style. So there's actually an MP3 option when you buy the digital course. So they can be on a walk because that's how they listen best, when they're being active and can listen to it podcast style. And some people want to read, they want to underline, they want to annotate, they want to star, whatever they want to do. And so really the workbook was the kind of final step in trying to meet every person and their preferred method of learning this information.
Oh, I love that. So it sounds like the workbook itself is the same as that online
Yep.
course academy, and we're just in paper style.
It's just in paper, and then slightly like some slight verbiage changes because you talk differently than, when you're like doing a video than you do on a book. So there's just a few different ways that I might have said something slightly differently. But for the most part, I basically took the script that I wrote for the videos to help me stay on track when I was recording the videos, and turned that into my script for my book, and then put all the exercises into it. So everything's all in one place.
Mm. I love that you brought that need and really, met the client where they were at. And so that now, as you've grown your program, that you now have many different options for many different people wherever they are. Wonderful.
Thanks.
Well, let's get into kind of some of the meat of this.
Yeah.
Early in the workbook, you emphasize the embodiment and anchor points. How do these practices help people reconnect to their truth and safety after gaslighting?
Yeah. So for me, really there's two reasons why I did that. One was from a challenge from my coach, like my kind of my business coach years ago, where I was telling her what I had for my course. And she's like, Sarah, that's not enough. Like you've got to have more than just like a video and some worksheets. So I like scrapped it. This is before I came up with like my final version. And I was like, okay, so what do people actually need to not just have information be dispensed to them, but be able to assimilate it, to be able to really connect with it. And one of the things there's a couple of things. One, I've been working for a while with someone that's a play therapist, like I contract for them. And so knowing and understanding the way that when we're engaged in something that's creative, but it's linked similarly to the concept or whatever, we can actually reach emotions, insights, different things that are kind of normal protectors in our brain keep us from getting at. So it's like these different things. I call them anchors because it's like if you're in a boat and there's a storm coming, if you have one anchor, you're probably going to get tossed around a little bit. That's one touch point, if you will. So that might be the video. You add in another anchor, that might be the worksheet, right? But then you add in an embodiment experience, which allows you to get in that back door. Now you have another anchor. And then also for me, there's connections that happen that go beyond words, especially because our body is never going to lie to us. Now, our gut might be off. That's different than our body not lying to us. And that can get really complicated, especially when you've been gaslit. Like our gut, like we got to relearn our gut. And that's part of why I have this as a part of it. But our body never lies to us. Like if we're feeling fear, it's going to respond as if we're afraid. If we're feeling happy, it's going to respond as if we're happy. Those kinds of things. Again, I'm being a little bit oversimplistic, but I'll give it an example. There's one exercise where I have people to kind of understand what it feels like to be gaslit in its purest, like most redacted or reducted, not redacted, reducted form is really trying to force yourself to be something you're not at the end of the day. And so that's the exercise where I have them try to walk around in shoes that are at least a size too small. That's going to hurt because you're wearing something that doesn't fit. And that's what happens when we're being gaslit. Like we're being convinced that we should think, feel, believe, perceive something that is actually not in alignment with our authentic self. So having that body experience can help us identify, oh, that's what it felt like in my body. Like I can kind of connect with how that feels in my soul when I do that. And now when I am in a conversation and I'm feeling that same feeling, I can identify. One of my little red flags can go up and I can slow down and I can get curious. So they're a really powerful part of the lesson, if you will, of connecting with the main kind of learning objective that I kind of have in mind for each lesson as people are going through the course or the workbook.
Yes. And I can just second that. I did walk around in the too small shoes, and it is like I did not skip any of those exercises, and
I love
that
that.
they were critical because it was more than just understanding intellectually. It was that embodiment. And I think that is what really helped me to really understand what was
Yes.
happening.
I
Yeah.
love that. That makes me so happy
Yeah,
that you
I
did
did.
all of those.
I still
I love
have
it.
my little scale thing with the rocks. Like
Yes.
it's still hanging up in my
Oh
room.
my
It
gosh, I'm
reminds
geeking out
me.
so hard. That's
I am too.
amazing. I
You
love
can
that.
see I was
Hmm.
like really excited to talk to you because
Yay.
it really, you've been a part of my
Mm,
journey.
I love that.
And
Thank you for sharing that with me.
yes. And I share with my clients all the time about what your work is. I refer them to you and your courses and now your
Awesome.
workbook. So,
Awesome.
and
Yay.
here we are on
And
the
here we are. All
podcast.
right. What do we have next? What do you want to know next?
Hey. All right, let's talk about those methods,
Mhm.
techniques, tactics, and roles. Now,
Yep.
I absolutely understand we are not going into all of these because that is the bulk of this. But can you just kind of tell us how that shows up in real life and why recognizing them is such an important first step?
Yeah. So let me just to be clear, like when you want to know how it shows up, I'm guessing you mean like an example. Okay,
Yeah.
that's kind of what I thought. So the example that I prepared really, I mean, you could copy and paste. Like I joke around sometimes and I say I think there's like a manual that they give to gaslighters where they just kind of say the same things. Because I still get shocked, sometimes. I mean, it's not real shock, it's like faux shock, but still it's a little bit of shock where I'm like 15 years later and I'm still hearing the same sentences with brand new clients. And I'm like, yep, that's what they say.
Mhm.
So very typical, like kind of gaslighter response to any number of situations would be, I didn't do that. You're imagining things. I'm thinking of the betrayal partner, betrayal trauma world. You're just insecure. 3 statements. You want to hear how much I can pull out of those 3 statements of
Let's
the
do it.
methods, techniques, and tactics? So first of all, that is stepping into the victim role. Okay. By that first step, by the combination, what we're looking at is the combination of the 3 sentences. It really, the primary method that it went into is the Darvo, which is right, like going into that defend, deny, and then I'm attacking you. And in doing so, I'm reversing who is the victim and an offender. So I'm actually the victim here. What you're doing is wrong immediately, just by those 3 simple phrases, right? So the tactics are a half truth combined with highlighting kind of faults, if you will. I use air quotes around faults because they're not really faults. They're just normal human emotions that are then exaggerated. So exaggeration is in there to make them look like they're a fault, right? So that's kind of that half truth part. Everyone's insecure. Everyone. There's not a person in the world that doesn't have some insecurity somewhere, right? Kind of a thing. So it's a half truth, but then there's a highlighting of it. There's lying. I didn't do that because they probably did, most likely, if they're doing gaslighting, right? There's a minimizing or trivializing of the person's emotions, right? Like if they're feeling scared or hurt, to be dismissive by saying you're imagining things. That's where there's like a little distortion of the facts, right? Again, so you can see how for me, one of the things I tell people is when you're trying to do this deconstructing and put it into the flow chart that I teach people how to do, it's not which one happened, it's how many, because there's always an overlap. And so people, when they get stuck, it's usually because they're trying to name which one. Don't do that. Give yourself permission. In fact, one of the things I have, I hope it's okay if I talk about this, is my card deck. That is, I don't know that I have it on my website. I need to put it on my website, but it's in my store for sure. I actually pulled it out. I'm like, let me quick go through my card deck. So it's kind of like flashcards with all of the main things that are in my workbook, right? So you could be in session with your client. Your client can have it, and they're like, let's look through the tactics together. Which tactics can you identify that just happened? And then you don't have to, sort through the whole workbook. But I literally did that. There's so many, right? So those tactics, then we can trace how they will flow into one of the techniques or many techniques. So for example, in this one, I put for sure there were 3 techniques: deception, manipulation, and diversion, potentially brainwashing. Because if this is the 1,000th time in the relationship that you've heard you're just insecure or you're imagining things, that it's a brainwashing technique. We can only resist somebody defining for us our reality so many times before we start to doubt ourselves. Yeah. It's like physics. I don't know how anybody could think that they're impervious to somebody that they're in relationship with, that they love, that they probably respect on some level, right? That they're connected and attached to, that wouldn't impact them. So there's a brainwashing component that is likely there as well. And then for me, the methods get a little bit, it's kind of like looking at it from both perspectives of what was the person doing, but also what happened in the gaslightee, because I could honestly see this going into any one of the 3 methods. Again, primarily Darvo, but I could also see it going into causing confusion and conflict internally. I could also see it going into method 2 of invalidating thoughts and feelings. Like, okay, so if I am insecure, does that mean my feeling of, not good enough right now isn't valid because of how my person just interacted with me? So I could see it going into any 3 methods. So that's a real life example of how learning these different things can help you name, why did that feel so bad? And this is the why is it important? It's 2 things. When we feel something off, when our gut, one of the biggest traps I try to help people recognize, so I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but is understanding how so often we choose our head over our gut. And so when our gut is telling us, ooh, those 3 sentences right there, and our body probably too, it might either like shut down or it might like bristle, depending on who you are. When we're getting those cues, if we don't have any sort of kind of quote unquote evidence that our brain is then looking for to like kind of back up why what we're feeling is what we're feeling, well, then we're going to go with what our person who we're supposed to love and trust is telling us. And we're going to because most of us that are victims of gaslighting, we want to be good, healthy people. We want to be open to quote unquote healthy criticism or any of those types of things. So of course we're going to kind of abandon ourselves a little bit in that moment. We don't know that's what we're doing, but we kind of do, because we're like, I don't have evidence. So this is how we get the evidence, right? It's such an important part because our brain is not going to let that go. So we have to recognize there's 4 parts to us: our head, our heart, our gut, and our body. And what happens is there's conflict in those in a moment like that, right? Our body and our gut is telling us something's not right. Our brain is looking for evidence, and our heart just hurts. right? So we're trying to look for congruence. I was trying to make up a word there. Congruence between those four things. And the head, we're always looking for what's out of whack here. What's out of alignment here? What's the rebel, so to speak. And in those type of situations, it's our head. So that's, to me, that's the part. That's why I have so many clients that will say to me, Sarah, this was the missing piece. Right? Being able to find that evidence so that we don't feel like I'm not going crazy. There's a reason why that felt the way it felt. There's a reason why. And now I have words. Now I have a system that I can plug it into so I can identify why it felt the way that it felt. And I can finally stand in a place of validating myself and not feeling like I'm wrong for doing so.
Oh, this was gold. Seriously. Like every single word that you said, I just feel like that resonates. That is what it was like for me. And having that evidence, having words was, I mean, it changed
Yeah.
everything.
I mean, it
And
did for me. Yeah.
yeah. And it was finally like, oh, I am not crazy. And it became this alignment inside of myself, right? That cognitive dissonance that was so constant, so pervasive that I was so used to it actually.
Yep.
And so then when I, yeah,
we live there.
yep. And so when I started to get more into that, the congruence, like you said, and that alignment, whoa, I became empowered. I wasn't, in that reactive abuse place. It was just like, oh, I know my reality now. I know it. And I didn't have to fight
That's
anymore
right.
to get him, my husband, that's my gaslighter, to get it. I didn't have to anymore.
Yep. It makes me think of why I was visiting, I guess, like guest visit a group that one of my trained professionals was doing. And when I came onto the group, one of the ladies started and she said, I just want to thank you, Sarah, because I'm learning how to stand up on the inside. And I was like, oh my God, that's so good. I actually turned it into a t-shirt.
I want that t-shirt.
Well, Sassy
Is
Sarah
it
merch.
okay? And your cards are there too.
Yeah,
there's 100%
yeah, there's
that.
stickers, like, because I love stickers. So there's stickers on there, just, different fun things. And I really did it. I don't feel like I'm like unabashedly plugging things because I don't make a lot of money on any of these things. The merch, they're like mantras that have stood the test of time of over a decade of coaching. They're the things that when I go back and I ask people, what are some of the most meaningful like mantras or messages that like got you through all of the things? And and then I turned them into merch because they help people. It's like,
Yes.
anyways. So, yeah.
Well, I love that because I do think having those symbols, those mantras, those words, those even in your course and your workbook, the mantras, right? And they're different than affirmations. That's what I liked about it. It was, these are true statements that I believe.
Yes. Yep. 100%.
Hi there. I am interrupting post-editing this interview because I'm going to make it 2 parts. So tune in next week for part 2 of the interview of Sarah Morales. I hope part 1 has been helpful, and as always, take what resonates and leave the rest.
Thanks for joining me today on the Betrayal Trauma Recovery Bookshelf. If something from this episode spoke to you, share it with a friend or come connect with me online. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Rachel Strong Smith. And if you want to go deeper, sign up for my email newsletter, where I share grounded support, personal insights, and practical tools to help you reconnect with yourself. Remember, healing isn't a straight line, it's a spiral, and every step towards yourself matters. So until next time, take gentle care.